Alright guys, so in this video, we're going to be trying to play the PS5 on a Game Boy Advance, and I know that sounds really weird, but let me just explain it. So, got my Game Boy Advance here, it's actually a pretty nice Game Boy Advance, got a backlit screen and everything. I actually did an unboxing of this console, I'll throw a link on the screen if you want to check that out. But basically, we're going to plug our PS5 into the Game Boy Advance, and you're going to see the PS5 display on the Game Boy Advance screen, which should be wild because the Game Boy Advance screen has such a low resolution. I believe it's 240 by 160. But basically the resolution is significantly lower than if you were to plug it into a 4K TV. And basically to make this happen, I have this TV tuner for the Game Boy Advance, which is wild. I did not know about this until a couple months ago when I saw it on the internet somewhere. Honestly, do not remember where I saw it, but I eventually ran across one on eBay, picked it up for like $80 or something. I'll throw the price up on the screen because I don't remember exactly what I paid for it. But yeah, basically you plug your Game Boy Advance into this TV tuner right here, and it's kind of got a couple functions. You can actually pull out the antenna and try to, watch shows on it with your TV. I've tried it out a little bit, couldn't get it to work, but there's also another function where you can plug in AV inputs into it and basically display other stuff on the Game Boy Advance, supposedly. I haven't tried it out yet, so we're going to try this out and see if it works. Alright, so let's just start with this Game Boy Advance tuner here. And so basically, this is your cartridge right here. You plug it into your Game Boy Advance. Got a speaker down here. It takes 4 AA's, or you can plug in external power. I got the AA's in there, and like I said, you got your antenna here, pretty long. But let's go ahead and plug in our Game Boy Advance. So the process of plugging in the Game Boy Advance is not the easiest. The first time I tried to slide it in, the Game Boy Advance cartridge on the TV tuner actually did not fit very well. It's a really tight fit, and sometimes it takes a few tries to actually get it to boot up. And you actually got to turn on the TV Advance or the TV tuner first. So that's on. Got a green light there. And then we can turn on a Game Boy, and it should boot up the TV tuner now. Hopefully. There it is. So, oh, and you can probably hear that now. But basically, you get a loud static noise, and it looks just like a TV, which is kind of wild. Yeah, if you press select, you can switch between video and TV. And there's your volume as well. So once I press the start button, it goes into this auto program mode, like you can see. It's basically scanning for channels like, any old TV would do. And I tried this earlier, and it gave me 50 channels, but none of them worked. They're all static. I haven't really done much troubleshooting yet, so I haven't figured that out, but I'll try to mess with that later. But it's not really going to affect our function, or at least it shouldn't. But I find it extremely amusing to just scroll through these TV channels right here, because it looks like legit TV. Obviously, you're not receiving any channels. So let's go ahead and go to video, and yeah. So before we actually try out the PS5 on the Game Boy Advance, I want to just give you a quick demo of the PS5 on a normal screen. In my case, I have a 4K monitor, which in pixels is 3840 by 2160. And just as a reference, the Game Boy Advance only has 240 by 160 pixels, which is, obviously a whole lot less than the PS5. So it's going to be interesting to see how the PS5 downscales to the Game Boy Advance. But like I said, I just want to give you a quick, demo of what this looks like on a screen you'd normally play on. And as you can see, home menu is super crisp, no issues here. And we're going to go over and just kind of boot up a game. So we'll boot up Astro's Playroom. Highly recommend if you never played this game. It comes for free with your PS5 if you have a PS5, so you might as well try it out. One of the best parts is it takes advantage of all the features of the DualShock controller, or the DualSense controller. But I'll just kind of run around a little bit so you can get an idea of how crisp it is, the color accuracy, that sort of thing. Then we'll go over and try the PS5 on the Game Boy Advance. I don't know why these little dudes just follow me around everywhere. It's fun to hit them though. Alright guys, so you got a little demo of what the PS5 looks like on a 4K monitor. So let's go ahead and let's try to plug in our PS5 into this Game Boy Advance, and we'll see if it works. And then if it does work, we're going to be in for a treat on how the picture looks. Alright guys, so you've seen the baseline test of the PS5 on the 4K monitor. So let's go ahead and try to plug it in to the Game Boy Advance and see how it looks. So got kind of a weird setup here to make this work. So basically, got my HDMI cable coming from my PS5 to a HDMI to AV adapter. And I'll show a little clip on the screen right now to show you what I'm talking about. Basically HDMI into this AV adapter and power to the AV adapter, and then out of the AV adapter is your 3 plugs, your yellow, red, and white, and then that basically goes to another adapter, a female to female adapter, and you got another AV cable that has this little auxiliary port on the end that then plugs into this unit. So let's go ahead and try this out. So I believe we got a few different plugs. We got our couple power plugs, we got our AV in, so this should be where we plug in. So let's try it out. Whoa. Alright, so I plugged it in, and we got something, but the PS5 is not on yet, so let's go ahead and try to turn on the PS5 and see if this works. I'm just seeing static still. Oh, there it is. No way. That's it, guys. That looks terrible. Holy crap. Let me zoom in on this so you guys can see it better. All right, guys, so there it is. You can see it, but the screen is really jittery, and you can read absolutely nothing. So I got my PS5 controller here, just showing you, and now we're logging in. Dude, I can't, I cannot read anything. I've done a video kind of like this where I did the same thing, but on a CRT TV, and that you could actually read stuff, but this, I can read Astro's Playroom right there, but man, the colors are actually better than I thought. Honestly, it's probably because I have this this nice, the nice Game Boy Advance that's got a backlit screen. Helps it a little bit. If this thing did not have a backlit screen, this thing would look terrible. Oh man, this is crazy. This looks so bad. I can't imagine playing on this. I can't even see where my cursor is right now. I'm also playing at an angle, so it makes it even a little bit worse for me. You guys have a little bit of a better view than I do, but either way, it's still not good. Let's go ahead and boot up Astro's Playroom, and we're gonna see what an actual game looks like. So I've got the sound coming through on the units. I'm not sure how to turn that down. All right, so actually I do know how to turn that down. So I turned it down a little bit, and here we are. So we got Astro's Playroom. I mean, you can see what you're doing. It's honestly a little bit better now than I thought it would be. I can see what I'm doing, but it's, man, if you're playing any game, if you're playing a game with any kind of text, you're done for. Let me try to go to the, what is it called? Basically the PS1 showroom. See if I can find it. It's been a while since I played this game, so I can't remember off the top of my head where everything is. Yeah, the PlayStation Labo. So let's go ahead and jump into here and see how these artifacts look. So I can read that text. It's big enough so I can read it. But dude, this is just so wild. It's so funny to look at. I mean, and the thing is, if you know what you're looking for, it's not too bad. But if this is your first time playing PS5 and you tried to play on the screen, there's no way you would know what's going on. This is wild. I was so surprised when I don't remember, it might have been Reddit or somewhere. It was somewhere where I just saw that they had a TV tuner for the Game Boy Advance, and that you could play other devices on this, basically as a TV screen, and I knew I had to pick one up. So I bought this thing a few weeks ago, and here we are now. Definitely got to try this on some other consoles, because this is just this is wild stuff. I just find it amusing to look at stuff in low res that's supposed to be high res, and it's just it's funny to look at. All right, so back on the main menu, or home menu, I'm just scrolling through my games now, and I'm trying to read these games, but I can't. Let's just try to boot up one of these. We'll boot up God of War and see what that looks like. Honestly, probably the worst part is the jittering of the screen, and I'm not sure if you guys can see that very well on the screen, but it's basically like vibrating up and down. I'm sure you probably can't see that. Let me try to, I wonder if that's like a cable issue, or if it's just natively part of the issue with downscaling this 4K console down to whatever it is, 240 by 160. Oh, I just clicked on something, but I don't know what. I either pressed new game or continue game. I couldn't read it, so I guess we'll find out in a second. All right, so here we are, God of War. This honestly looks like a PS1 game right now. And oh, I can't see my health bar at all down in the bottom left-hand corner. I mean, I can see it, but I can't tell what it's saying. And it's been like half a year since I played God of War, so I don't remember the controls or anything, or what stage I'm at, so it makes it even worse. Man, if you want a true challenge, you get to play games on the Game Boy Advance. At first, I thought a challenge was playing games on a CRT TV, but playing games on a Game Boy Advance is just next level. At least games that weren't optimized for the Game Boy Advance. All right, guys, so back on the home menu, and there's one other thing I want to try real quick. You know, obviously this thing fits the Game Boy Advance really well, but I kind of want to try a Nintendo DS in it and see if I can get the Game Boy cartridge to fit in the Game Boy Advance cartridge slot on the DS. And yeah, so let's try that out. So I got the Flower Power Nintendo DS. Let's go ahead and try to plug this thing in. All right, so I messed around a little bit, and I think I got it to fit. The Game Boy Advance games don't fit all the way into the Nintendo DS. They kind of stick out a little bit, so I think we might be enough of the way in. Hopefully this DS has power, because otherwise I got to charge it. All right, so now we should have power to the DS. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. We'll see if something pops up in the bottom. Nope, nothing. Oh, there we go. It actually was not slid in all the way, so maybe it'll show up now. Nice. So it just says start Game Boy Advance game. So let's try this out. And I mean, it should work. I'm surprised I got it to fit. Oh, there it is. Nice. It's even, you guys can't see that at all, because the DS light screen is actually darker than the other screen I have. So man, that is so dark. Let me zoom in on it and see if you guys can see it at all. All right, so there we go. Screen is even smaller too. It's still doing the little jittery thing, just as bad as before, actually worse, because it's smaller and you know, the screen's not quite as bright. But yeah, this is this is crazy though. Whoever thought I'd be playing a PS5 on my Game Boy Advance or my Nintendo DS? Not me. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like down below and also subscribe for future content. And I'm also coming out with my own website called jrobgaming.com. I'm basically going to be selling my old consoles, games, accessories, merch, that sort of thing. So go ahead and click on the link down below to sign up to be notified when it goes live. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.